fine if it's an international company. You might get hired by a Chinese company if your Chinese is good enough and they need somebody who understands the U.S. I'll just make up an example. Goldwyn here in Chicago has a staff which is half American and half Chinese. They're obviously going to need somebody back in China, as a coordinator on that work. And for someone who was really truly fluent in Chinese and who had a background in engineering and anything related to clean energy, you might find yourself with a job in Beijing or Xinjiang, working for Goldwyn. Now that's a learning experience. That's how you really get to know China. Mm-hmm. So travel to visit, get a job if you can, an internship, just go study in China for a year. Anything that really makes you part of the culture is very valuable. Other questions?
This is a little off topic from Chicago, but you had mentioned that you've done some work in Latin America in addition to China, and you didn't mention how foreign investment in Brazil specifically is gaining momentum, specifically for oil, ethanol, telecommunications, raw materials. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on South America and their future with China.
South America is a very good opportunity also. I mean, all of the BRIC countries are growing. Just as an aside, I also serve on the board of directors of one of the big Indian companies. And that's another whole discussion. But Latin America is a very interesting one if you're also interested in China. People don't realize that there's a big connection between China and Latin America. It started off as an agricultural connection because China doesn't raise enough food to feed its population. So it was the reason I got involved in Latin America is I ran Pillsbury, and we were actually importing products from Chile, Argentina into China for the Chinese government. Started off as an agricultural connection. Now it's a connection that really has to do with resources, oil, minerals, things of that sort. So if you're fluent in Spanish or Portuguese and Chinese and have some technical background, engineering, clean energy, business management, whatever it is, you might find yourself with some very interesting opportunities. Arabic Chinese is another good combo. Couple, but they're good.
You mentioned Shenzhen for a couple times. Actually, I come from Shenzhen. Is Shenzhen going to have more business opportunity with the state, with Chicago?
I wouldn't say it has more opportunity. There are big opportunities everywhere, but Chicago knows Shanghai and Beijing very well. We're just really building our business opportunities with Shenzhen. We took Mayor Daley to Shenzhen last spring. And again, to put this in perspective to you, when I first went to China in 1981, I drove to the end of Hong Kong, got out of a car with my little bags in my hand, walked down a dirt road from here to that green wall, and across a very rickety little wooden bridge with barbed wire all over it, and a couple of very nervous 18-year-olds with AK-47s pointed at me. And that was my first entry into China. And Shenzhen was a fishing village of 7,000 people. It was another rice paddy like Pudong. The population of Shenzhen is now 30 million people and growing. A lot of people don't know that and Guangdong province is actually the richest province in China, richer than Shanghai and Beijing, and just growing like crazy. They're rebuilding it. Yeah. They've torn down, where you get off the train from Hong Kong, which used to be the center of town. That's all being torn down, and the entire city is being rebuilt. And the city is less than 30 years old. But we would never do this in Chicago. They're just bulldozing everything and rebuilding so that it will now be a far more modern city than Chicago, ironically. A lot of high-speed rail, all electric buses and electric taxis. And we work very closely with two companies located in Shenzhen. One is BYD, which stands for Build Your Dream. It's the largest battery company in China. Started out providing cell phone batteries to Motorola here in Chicago, and they are now the largest producer of electric buses and electric cars, both in China, and they aspire to do the same in the United States. So huge, huge opportunity in Shenzhen. Shenzhen is a little more of a Wild West city from a business standpoint. Beijing is like Washington. It's very orderly and very government controlled. Shanghai is like New York. It's a real business and financial center, and Shenzhen is like Yahoo, let's do a deal by 2 o'clock. So it's a fabulous place for doing business and a fabulous place if you're an entrepreneur. But to really be successful in Shenzhen, your Chinese language had better be very, very good. You had better have spent some time in China so you know what you're doing. And it's a good idea to have a good business background before you try to do a business deal over there yourself, because people are very sophisticated and very good entrepreneurs. But it's an exciting place. Yeah, when were you last in Shenzhen? Yeah, did you go back to Shenzhen for the New Year?
Yes, I can go back twice a year.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like every 2 weeks, the whole city is different. I can't find meetings when I'm trying to go to an office of a company I know, because they just tore it down last week. and 3 blocks away there's a great new modern building. So it's a very interesting place to go and see. Other questions?
So you think Shenzhen is a better place for entrepreneurs in China compared to other major cities from your perspective?
I don't think so. It's I think every place in China is very good for entrepreneurs, honestly.
For
It's just,
American entrepreneurs?
yes, for the simple reason that China still needs everything. But that period is quickly coming to an end. Over the next 10 years, a lot of major needs will have been filled in China, but I'm thinking of Chicago University graduates that we work with in China. I'm just thinking of a young lady who graduated from Northwestern about 10 years ago out of their MBA program, now owns the most famous kindergarten Montessori school system in China. And it's just they need everything. There were no kindergartens 10 years ago. She observed that and said, okay, I'm going to be Miss Montessori School in China, and now she is. Another young man who just happened to have graduated from Northwestern is now the #2 person at the second leading wind company in China, soon coming to Chicago again. Why? Because he went to Northwestern. You know, he knows us, he likes us. These are his school ties, are here. So there are huge, huge opportunities. I wouldn't say that one city is better than another. If you want to be an American entrepreneur in China, live there, work there, be fluent in the language, observe what is needed in China, what business you can create, what niche you can fill. 10 years ago, I would have said to you, find yourself a good Chinese partner. You don't really need that anymore, but it's kind of a handy thing to have. If you have a friend that you trust who's like-minded, it's a great combination. But there are people who have gone into China and set up wholly owned foreign enterprises with no Chinese partner. That's what the corporations are doing these days. And more entrepreneurs are doing it. You just got to know your business well. You've got to know how to run a business and really understand the language and the culture, because you're going to have to manage a Chinese management team on the ground. You're not going to want to have a lot of guilos working for you because it's too expensive. They don't know the country, they don't have the contacts, unless they've got, I say this as an old guilo. Fortunately, I have a lot of friends in China, so they still love me, they still need me. But more and more, that is not going to be the case. So you've really got to know China, because you're going to want to build a truly Chinese company, which will then become a global company. So, other questions?
She actually owned a few stores in Shenzhen, right? She ran some business. Small,
Oh,
but
good.
still it's still starting.
Mhm.
Can be our starting point for the class, our connection in Shenzhen.
No, that's great. One of my favorite people, a couple of my favorite people in China are a wonderful, wonderful young lady who had no formal education whatsoever. But she was just, forgive me, gentlemen, she was so hard-headed, she didn't want a man telling her what to do. And so she decided she was going to go into business for herself. She set up a plastic bag company, you know, the plastic bags that you use in grocery stores. She's 22 years old, and she's already a multimillionaire. She just went out and did it. You know, and she's smart, and when there was a problem, she figured it out. My most favorite Chinese entrepreneur of all was a woman whose husband died, leaving her with 3 children. This was in Wuhan. She had nothing but 3 kids and a couple of chickens and a little teeny piece of land. She would pack up the 3 young kids, walk to the major highway crossroads, which at that time was unpaved, and sell her eggs every morning. Pretty soon the truck driver started asking her to cook the eggs, so she boiled the eggs. Pretty soon they started asking her to prepare more finished dishes. So the next thing you know, she's got a cooking pot on this street corner, which is still dirt, in Wuhan. Today she owns the largest chain of restaurants in Wuhan with over 5,000 seating capacity. I don't even know how many people working for her. And she runs it like Disneyland. She studied, true story, studied Disney's management system. Everybody's got a beautiful uniform. Everybody lines up every day, sings the company songs. She observed that Disney hired people based on personality and service skills, not technical skills. And she picked up the train-the-trainer program from Disney. Each new employee trains the next new employee behind them. Fabulously
What's her
successful.
restaurant? Because I'm from Wuhan too.
But I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's a huge restaurant in downtown. She's very famous in Wuhan. I'll look it up and tell you. But
Okay.
wonderful lady. You know, and
There's
she's
several years of kind of legendary women
Yeah.
in the area.
yeah, and lots of legendary men too.
Yes.
The gentleman who started BYD, Build Your Dream, in Shenzhen, he and his brother were orphaned. He nonetheless was able to get himself through college, became an electrical engineer. His brother loaned him $3,000 US in the late 80s. That was a huge amount of money. I don't know how his brother got that, but that was a lot of money in China in the late 80s. He started the company. He became the largest battery company in China, supplying Motorola in 1999. And then he observed that everybody was making the batteries for electric cars, but nobody was making electric cars. He didn't know anything about the auto business, but he went out and bought a defunct car company in Shenzhen and said, I'm going to put that chassis on top of my battery, and I'm going to become the leader in the electric car business in China. And he did. So it's a combination of tremendous work ethic and motivation, just natural commercial ability and common sense, but more than anything else, the determination to make it work. No matter what problem gets thrown at you, you find a solution. I mean, that's what makes Chinese entrepreneurs great. And frankly, that's what made American entrepreneurs great in the 1850s and early 1900s. We need to bring that spirit back to U.S. manufacturing, and that's what will make us successful and competitive and growing again. Very exciting. It's a lot of fun. I've never retired. I've failed retirement spectacularly because I'm just having much too much fun doing what I'm doing. I would much rather be a tiny little part of history and a tiny little part of helping make history happen and make life good for the U.S. and for China than sit and read about it.
You have been traveling between China and the U.S. constantly, right?
I spent about 6 months of the year in China, which is why I couldn't come and see you earlier, and about 3 months of the year in Chicago, and then 3 months of the year elsewhere. That's fun, it's interesting. But you're at the beginning of that journey, so you don't have to worry about failing retirement for a long time. First succeed, then you can fail retirement. Other questions?
Is much of I know you mentioned that a lot of cities are great for American entrepreneurs. Is much of Chicago's business focused on Shanghai and Shenyang with the Sister Cities program, or how does that relate to what you do with?
It's changing, and this is what we really did with both the Chicago China Economic Development Center, and we also did it with Mayor Daley's Chicago Friendship Initiative, is really expand our relationships beyond Shanghai and Beijing. And historically, that's where they have been, although Chicago companies do business all over China. Motorola had a lot of cell phone case manufacturing facilities down in Dongguan and Shenzhen. Most of the big Chicago corporations tend to have their offices in Shanghai. Kraft is located there, Abbott's located there, Baxter's there. United is in Beijing because of government relationships for a regulated industry. But increasingly, we're expanding our network, particularly, very importantly, to Western China, to Chongqing. And we took Mayor Daley to Chongqing for the first time, just about exactly this time a year ago. And Chongqing is another created city. It's similar to Shenzhen. It's a very important city on the Yangtze in Western China. But the government moved a lot of people there when they put the Yangtze River Gorge Dam in. So it is now a created city of 30 million people and growing. It's fascinating when you fly in over Chongqing because there's just development everywhere. It's like Shenzhen, has been, and like Shanghai was in the 90s. The crane, as they say, is the national bird of China, the construction crane. So we in Chicago are really increasing both the number of cities that we're engaged with, and we are pushing into Western China because that's where a lot of the future development is going to take place. And retailing is a great business to be in. I've worked with Walmart, Carrefour, actually opened 7-Eleven in China in the mid-90s. So it's a very, very good business to be in. So if you've got that background and that skill set, I would certainly look at staying in that industry, when you go back to China.
This is a follow-up. You mentioned several times about the work collaboration with working with the mayor Daley. What about the new mayor? So
It's very interesting. There are two things going on. There is still the Chicago China Friendship Initiative, and still a major focus on China. Having President He come to visit us in Chicago a year ago really was a game changer for Chicago. And for those of you studying marketing, it increased our awareness dramatically in China and increased our credibility. If Mayor Hu said it was the place to go, it became the place to go. Now, very interestingly, soon-to-be President Xi went to Los Angeles. But that's fine. Everybody's got to own a city. Hu is very closely associated with Chicago. Xi will now be associated with the Midwest, his visit to Iowa, and that's good for us, but also with the West Coast, with Los Angeles. And that's all about the Port of Los Angeles. But we are definitely keeping the China initiative going, but you may know that Mayor Emanuel is going to bring the G8 and NATO to Chicago in May of this year. And that initiative is really about making Chicago not just the place for Chinese companies to come and invest, but frankly for the world to come and invest, particularly the BRIC countries, the members of the G8. So this is wonderful for us. It's very good. So we will go from being China-focused to being more G8 and more globally focused. And and Mayor Emanuel is particularly interested in India. I think he's going to focus on India in the way that Mayor Daley focused on China. But did everybody see that Mayor Daley just announced Mayor Daley obviously joined Cat and Muchin of council when he retired as mayor of Chicago, and they've just announced that they're going to open an office in Shanghai. So Mayor Daley is still going to be very heavily involved in China. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. It's been a delight to meet all of you this afternoon, and I wish you great success in your careers and in all of your adventures in China and in other places of the world. I think you are very wise to be learning about China, the language, the culture, the history, because it's going to have such a profound impact on the economic and the developmental future of the United States over certainly your lifetime. So whether you work in China or not, China affects our lives every single day. So many of our products are imported from China, and it is in fact saving us a huge amount of money in our daily lives. If you look back over the 15-year growth of China and the 15-year growth of Walmart in the United States and look at sourcing of products from China to the U.S., you really can see the economic impact. So China is having a pretty positive impact on our day-to-day lives, certainly in saving us a lot of money on day-to-day commodities. However, if we don't keep up with manufacturing, if we don't keep up with education, if we don't keep up with innovation, we will fall behind. So what all of you in this room are doing is absolutely critical to the future of the United States and to U.S.-China relations. Education is absolutely the baseline for all of this. So I thank you all for staying up all night to study for those exams, to learn and to work hard, because you really are critical to our future. So thank you for all you're doing. And Jen knows how to reach me if anybody has any questions. So with that, I will get back to work making money for the city of Chicago and creating jobs for you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been great fun to
Thank you
meet
for
you.
the wonderful.
Let's do
Let's do
this the right way.
The Chinese way.
The Chinese way.
Well, the Chinese way should put into a bag. Very nice.
We'll pretend it's
Very
beautifully
Chinese
wrapped.
style big bag. So you tell me, because you're in the business for a longer time than I.
Okay.
All right,
We-
Chinese.
We stand
The
center
official-
stage. We make a few beautiful remarks about each other, how grateful I am to be with you young students who are going to be our future, given the opportunity to talk with you this afternoon. And you tell me how wonderful I am, and the other students.
And also we shake hands, right?
And then we shake
We want
hands.
to shake hands. This
Photos
is
flash. We
Yes.
smile.
With the camera there. All right, thank you
And-
very much.
And I unwrapped the gift.
This is a DePaul gift.
Oh, thank you. I
Yes.
am truly honored. You can get my sense of humor here.
This is a card that goes with the, yes. Also, by the way, the government style, I should open the gate for you, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that I can see it and admire it.
Okay. Oh, the other way. Oh, here. Here you go.
Ah, 谢谢. I will think of you in my every hour. You have to come up with good lines for you to see. Creativity counts.
Yes. Actually, every time when I go to China, I meet anybody in China officially, they will give me gifts.
Yes,
Regardless how many times I've been there.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. I have a vast collection of silk scarves and tea.
Yes, and if you want to go to China in the future, remember prepare what do you
Yes.
call it? Cabinet for Chinese gifts.
Very, very important. And be thoughtful about it, because, so many people are going. Try to take things that are either personal to your business, personal to Chicago if you're there on government business, or better yet, personal to your host and your business in Chicago. People really appreciate someone who has put the thought into creating a unique gift for them. That's very, very moving to your Chinese host, and they will remember it. That says, I care enough to think about you. This is not just the usual, City of Chicago pet. I know you, I know your business, I know what you need, and I have prepared this gift especially for you. It means a lot to people. So
one thing I want to mention, the clock here you give here in the U.S. is very appropriate because of our bookstore universe prepares so many clock gifts.
right.
But in Chinese culture, you don't give a clock, right? So this part, but here we're in U.S. U.S. they never representing our university give it to you. So we're representing Paul University, not representing China.
I have enjoyed my time with you, and we think of you at every hour.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Amanda. It's great fun. Good luck to all of you.
All right.